Hi, Stefan.
Hi, how you doing? Good to speak. Well, it's good to
Good.
meet you. I thought it was sort of like meeting. I haven't
Nice
got
to meet
too
you.
long, so I'm going to get right into it. I mean, I'm a big fan of your work and what you do. But I was reading about you.
Thank
You
you.
said this Tenet was unlike any project you've ever taken on. I just wondered if you could elaborate on that. In what way was this different?
Well, first of all, this is the first time I work with Christopher Nolan. So just getting to know and getting the insight of his mind of, one of my all-time favorite directors was extremely fascinating for me. And I learned so much from the way that he works. And, especially since music has is so important in his film, and it's almost like its own character. I mean, it is its own character. And for this film, like what's so great about the process of working with Christopher Nolan is that he brings a composer on board just very early. So just after he finished the script, we had a meeting, and they showed me the script, and we were able to start writing music about 6 months before they took off the shoot. So in of it all, like we all had like 18 months working on this movie together. And the subject of this movie being inversion, and there's so many ways of inverting music, and I've only touched the surface of it when I was in high school, when I was studying music inversion, how you can invert music and how you can write. But at that time it was only on sheet music, so I was writing music backwards and forwards on notation, music notation. But now, I mean, at high school, that was what, 20 years ago. So going back to music inversion and all the ways you can invert music, there's so many different techniques you can use, and there's so many ways you can do it in the computer or do it on the paper. And so that was something that I spent a lot of time experimenting with.
Yeah. So, in regards to like your process, so you can talk to me like I'm an idiot, because when it comes to things like this, I am a proper idiot. So Chris Nolan asked you to come on board. Then what happens from that moment? Do you begin right away? Can you start your job as composer just from conversations with Chris, or do you need the script, or do you need to see footage? How does your process work, and does it change from project to project as well?
No, I mean, I read the script, and then immediately we had a conversation, and just from reading the script, I had a bunch of strange or weird ideas in my head, and I just ran them by him, and just like told me all the different ways we can manipulate sounds, and how we can, like, in the fire truck scene, fire engine scene, like how we can use like the fire alarms of a fire truck, and like a engine growl from big trucks, and like how we can make music out of that. And then Chris told me about how he's been coming up with new ways with like low frequencies on the speakers in the theater. And so we just basically, from my first conversation, there was a lot of material. I had inspiration to go back to the studio and start working. So I started writing music, right after our like second meeting, and then we met up every other week after that, and listened to the music that I was writing, and then we had a conversation, listened, dissected every little thing, every little instrument, every little sound, and we continued that process for about 4 months before he took off to shoot. So when he went on this world tour to shoot the movie, he already had about 2 hours of my music in his iPod.
Oh, wow. Because I always love how your work, you kind of bring together your music with the kind of sound design, really utilizing the kind of sounds of the world the characters inhabit. But in this instance, was that quite difficult? Because usually I guess you use sound based on worlds we know. So if you're doing, say, Creed, you can look at the area that the film is set in. You can look at like modern America. But Tenet is a world unlike any I've ever stepped into. So does that make it more of a challenge in some ways?
It made it more challenging, but in a good way, in like an inspiring way. It's like it's things you never seen visually before. Like I never experienced seeing this in the screen before, when you see people moving forwards and backwards at the same time, like the protagonist stepping down into a puddle of water, and you see the water rise up to his shoe before he does it. That's how I wanted. When I saw that, I was like, this is how I want the music to sound like.
Yeah, because I was going to ask as well, because Chris, I mean, he really pushes boundaries as a filmmaker. He's always been daring and always takes risks. Does that give you the freedom or license to do the same when you're working alongside a director that is always someone that's going to push boundaries? Does that make you feel like, hang on, if he's doing it, then I can do it too?
Oh, absolutely. I I was just trying out the weirdest left field ideas I could, like pulling out things from like this big basket I have from the last 20 years of my career working with different artists, and producing records. It's like there's always these small little ideas you have and you get, and just like I just try them all out and just saw the weirder, stranger they were, like the more interesting Chris thought of them.
And of course, you've worked on The Mandalorian, which comes from the Star Wars franchise, and then Creed, which is from the Rocky franchise. I mean, these are franchises that come with such iconic scores that you're kind of building on. Do you quite enjoy the pressure that comes with that? I mean, you clearly don't shy away from it, but do you quite enjoy when you kind of take on something that has something iconic already, that gives you this kind of platform to sort of add to it and to bring something new to something we already sort of know and love?
Well, I enjoy. I mean, it's. I really enjoy the music of Star Wars. I really enjoy the music of Rocky, and being able to step into those worlds. And the bar is set so extremely high. So, fortunately for me, I've been working with directors and filmmakers that wants to try something new, and they're open for experimenting, and open for new ideas. And that's the only way to make it work.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not as like smaller community as I make out, but I always have this idea that all the composers kind of know each other. So I'm just wondering, if that in mind, have you had the chance to spend much time with the likes of John Williams or Hans Zimmer and kind of have the opportunity to tell them how much of an inspiration their work is to you?
No, fortunately I met Hans once we did like a roundtable together, and I got the chance to obviously tell him how much I love his music and how big of an inspiration he's been to me. We didn't get more time together, but hopefully I know he's going to be around for a long time. So still haven't met John Williams, but can't wait for the moment to sit down with him, and maybe we can jam out together play a couple of jazz standards.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. Yeah. So just to get back to Tenet, why Travis Scott? What was it about him that you felt would be a good kind of collaboration in regards to this particular score?
Well, Tenet is the whole movie is such a roller coaster. So when the end credits came on, like I still wanted the audience to feel like you're on that ride. And I feel like the experience is ending. I still want to feel like, okay, we're still on this journey together. And the way to do that was to introduce a new element. And I thought Travis Scott's voice and his personality would be great for that end of that movie, because he feels like his voice is from the future. And just the way that he manipulates his sound and his voice sounds like it was also extremely fitting for the sound world that me and Chris already created for the movie. So when we worked together on the end titles, and we finally put the song into the end titles, there was an element in the beginning of his vocals that just sounded so interesting. You can really tell if it was vocals or if it was an instrument. And me and Christopher Nolan thought it was so interesting to take that sound was so interesting. So we took a little snippet of it and plugged it into the movie at like 15 to 20 different times in the movie. That's actually the first thing that you hear in the movie that opens up the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of several brilliant collaborators you've had. But I'm sure lots of people have asked you about working with Donald Glover. But he strikes me, talking about people from the future. I mean, Donald Glover's like an alien. He's so talented. What's he like to work with? I mean, because I know you have a really close collaboration. I mean, it sounds like it's a very generous kind of working relationship you've got.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working together for quite some time now, and just what I love about Donald is that you never know what's next, but I know it's going to be great. So like whenever he calls me, and whenever we meet up, and whenever we start on new music together, it can be any different shape or any sound in a new way, or it's just but the way his mind work is just, he can just touch so many different so many different types of art, or so many different types of subjects, and it's like a Renaissance man. Obviously, he's just like whatever he does, or it puts his head on, it's his mind on, it's greatness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably quite a big list, but are there any kind of musicians or artists that you really admire that you've not yet worked with that you'd love to one day collaborate with?
I would love to work with one of my all-time favorite improvisers, Kurt Rosenwinkel. He's a guitar player that I really admire.
Yeah, just quickly talk about guitar, because my cousin is a composer, so I've been in his sort of studio, and I always find it fascinating that when he's kind of watching something for the first time, maybe a bit of footage, he looks around him with his kind of eyes going, what can I use? And he just has this like array of kind of instruments. But I was reading that the guitar is your first port of call. Is that always the case, or is it based on what you're seeing, or is that always the instrument you just gravitate to first?
No, it's definitely the guitar is the instrument that I know the best and I can play. I'm the best performer and best player on the guitar. But I was normally, I sit by the computer and I have the keyboard in front of me. So like normally that's how you start writing ideas and you come up. But I love what I found the most interesting in the process, especially the last 5 years, probably, is just to come up with new ways to create music. And it's not just by sitting with a computer, it's through going outside, recording sounds. It's from like playing a real instrument, playing the guitar, or playing a real piano, where you actually play something that's resonating with you. It's like something that resonates, has a something that gives you something back. And I love the challenge that for every different project, every different movie, every different artist you work with, you have come up with a completely new way of working, because that's the only way to kind of regenerate yourself and try to come up with new things.
I mean, it's a fantastic job, isn't it? It's a great creative way to work. Did you know that you wanted to do this from quite a young age? Were you quite settled on this as a kind of ambition from an early age?
Yeah, I think it was in high school where I got an opportunity. I loved writing music. I mean, that was my main focus, to play guitar and write music. And I also had at the early age didn't really know what I loved, so many different styles of music. So, and I figured out pretty early on that in film scoring you can work in different styles depending on what film it is. And also I got an opportunity to write for an orchestra in high school, and that moment of having like a 70-piece orchestra performing your music was like kind of like an aha moment. So I was always looking for that experience again. And then and it's interesting because I figured out that if you work on a movie now or a TV show or whatever, one thing that's interesting is that you can put all different kinds of genres in one project. It doesn't have to be a jazz score or a classical score or a synth electronic score. They can all be meshed together, and through production you can tie it all together in a cohesive way.
So it's fascinating. But I'm just wondering, because my final question really to the man who's one of the most in demand in Hollywood at the moment is, what are you working on at the moment? Have you got any projects underway, or are you working on anything? Because obviously I know we're starting slowly to rebuild the industry back to where it was just a year or so ago.
Yeah, I mean, I have I just took a couple of months off. We traveled around in South Korea for 3 months and came back a week ago. My wife has family up there, so it was a great time to go. And but now we're back in LA, and I'm working on some of my own music, which is kind of like therapy. I'm not working for anyone else and just kind of getting my own ideas out for myself. So it's very soothing for my mind. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but it's mostly just for myself. And then I think when the summer comes along, we'll probably get into Mando season 3, and then I think Black Panther 2 will be on the horizon soon too.
Yeah. So just very quickly before I do go, you mentioned about doing stuff on your own. Is that maybe with the view to release that as a kind of album, or is it at the moment you just want to get it out for yourself and just see where it goes?
Well, I'm kind of like, it'd probably be an album. Like, I like when I do something, when I do songs or music, I like to finish things. Like, I like to, put a wrap on it and put a button on it and just like finish it. And I'm sure my goal is that it's going to be an album. It's going to be like 8 to 10 to 12 songs and something that's done and mastered and ready to go. And then, but I'm not really like, I'm not looking to like sign. I'm not looking to tour the world as with this project or something. It's just something I'm doing just for my own mental health.
Yeah, well, if you do tour the world with it, I'm sure you'd sell out a lot because your work is brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today, and best of luck with everything you've got coming up in the future. Cool.
No, thanks for having me. It was a real joy.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!